You go into your shower feeling, but as soon as you reach for the Irish Spring, your day immediately gets better. That crisp, fresh, unmistakable Irish Spring scent zings your brain and awakens your senses. So when you finally emerge from the shower, 37 minutes later, because you pay the water bill so you can stay in there as long as you want, you're ready to take on the day and smell great doing it. Irish Spring Body Wash and Bar Soap. Fresh, green, Irish. Shop now at Walmart.
From hobby farmers to weekend gardeners and everyone in between, Tractor Supply trusts 5G solutions from T-Mobile for Business to make shopping more personal. Together, we're connecting over 2,200 stores with 5G business internet and powering AI so team members can match shoppers with products faster.
You're all set.
This is enriching customer experience. This is Tractor Supply with T-Mobile for Business. Take your business further at T-Mobile.com/now.
It's time to get inside the Giants Huddle.
Let's go, let's go, let's go.
On Giants.com.
I like it, I like it.
And the Giants mobile app.
Boom, give me some juice.
Part of the Giants Podcast Network.
Let's roll.
Welcome back to another edition of the Giants Huddle Podcast, brought to you by Citizens, the official bank of the Giants. I am John Schmeelk. Our normal Friday show, we'll have a conversation with Giants edge rusher Brian Burns. We'll hear from the head coach of the Giants, Brian Daboll. And then Tim Benz, who hosts the Steelers pre- and post-game show, will join us to give us an inside look at the Steelers. Let's lead us off with Brian Burns. Now we're joined by Giants edge rusher Brian Burns. Brian, when you guys look back at the Philly tape, when you did tape review on Monday and Tuesday, what did you guys see?
We just seeing small mistakes, small things that can be easily fixed. As far as just like certain technique and certain leverages, pretty much. But that was pretty much the only thing that we've seen on that film, honestly. But those are things that can be fixed, and it's all run game and discipline.
You know, I was going to ask, how do you evaluate that? Because I thought down to down in the run defense, you guys are actually okay. But you had those three explosives in there that accounted for 130 of his 170 rushing yards. So when you do your overall evaluation, is it just figuring out what you did wrong on those individual plays rather than a holistic view of how you're trying to stop the run?
Yeah, definitely. You know, the numbers can be skewed because of those big runs that he did have. But like I said, it's a small little technique, small little leverages that open up those big plays. But yeah, like you said, for the most part, he was bottled up for a good amount of the game.
And it was different things on each play, right? One was a read option, one was get him outside, the other one was up the middle. So it was really completely different issues on the three plays, right?
Yeah, it was. One came down just to the call, basically just what the call was. It was just like a wrong time type of deal. Nothing crazy, but I mean, we still could have made it. But like I said, it comes down to leverage, you know. So if they was in the right leverage, we could have made that play as well. But then the other ones was just like, you know, certain balls just squirted out of the hole. Like I said, it was minuscule. It wasn't that deep.
And you look at the game, they dropped back to pass 21 times. You guys had 5 sacks. You go back, that's a 23% sack rate in any game. That's astronomically good. But is that a classic example of having to earn the right to rush the passer by stopping the run, which is, I know, what you guys and defense coordinators talk about a lot? Yeah,
definitely. You got to stop the run to earn the right to rush. And like you said, like once they figured out that their run was getting somewhere, they kind of abandoned the pass because why put them in harm's way, I guess.
Why has your pass rush been able to convert so many pressures into sacks? Because you can have a disruptive pass rush, you can get pressures, you can take the quarterback out of his game, out of his rhythm, but you don't get sacks all the time. Why are you guys able to convert so many of those pressures into sacks?
I think everybody's just winning at a high level. You know, Dex is doing his thing. Tib was doing his thing, and now Aziz is doing his. And Chapman's coming along great, you know. So I feel like a lot of times the pocket is collapsing to a point where he can't get out or can't get rid of the ball, you know. And that, you know, ultimately comes out into sacks. So I feel like that's one of the main reasons.
How much is that by design with the way the system works, with the way Bowen sets up with the complementary, the secondary helping you guys up front and vice versa? And how much is it the individual talent of the players? You winning outside, Dex just being dominant in the middle?
It's a combination of both. Like I said before, like one person can get pressure and nobody else do, and then another person get pressure and nobody else do, and that can be, you know, a high pressure defense, but it won't, like you just said, come to any sacks. But I think it's a little bit of both of individual play and schematically is getting guys one-on-ones, getting Dex one-on-ones, myself one-on-ones, and really like just opening up the opportunity to, win. He's putting us in good positions.
You played with a very good defensive tackle in Derek Brown last year. You got Dex this year. We talked to you in the offseason how you guys could help each other. Now that we've been through 7 games, you've seen it on tape. In what ways do you think his presence and the way he's playing inside, 9 sacks for an interior guy is unbelievable through 7 games? How is he helping you when you look at the tape and see it get executed on the field?
Just for a guy with that size, mainly most of them are, just primarily run stoppers. Dex can do both, you know what I'm saying? And at the same time, he's able to he's witty and smart enough to, adjust with the game. Like he's able to hear the calls of the offensive linemen and adjust. He's able to see what they're doing to him and adjust. He's able to see what they're doing to me and adjust. And, even let me know certain things that we can work dictating off of what they give us, So with that being said, he has a knack for getting to the quarterback. And that's not something that's, normal, especially for D tackles or just a defensive lineman in general. Like that that attribute to get to the quarterback and know how to get to the quarterback isn't common in everybody.
Do you see your presence outside also helping him? Is this a mutually beneficial relationship here where it's very hard to double team 2 guys rushing the passer, or 3 if you have Kayvon or Aziz out there dominating too?
Yeah, we actually joke about that on the sideline. I made a small joke, like, why these quarterbacks keep stepping up to you? Like, that wouldn't be smart. If I was a quarterback, I wouldn't step up there. So I made a little joke why they can't step back to me. But, I definitely think me, Aziz, or Tibbs' presence on the outside is, helping him out, as well as him dominating the inside is helping us out. So it's like a tandem.
I want to get a little technical with you. I'm curious if this is true. I know a lot of coaches don't want your guys on the edge to run past the quarterback, right? Because that can open run lanes and everything. Are you able to maybe be a little bit more aggressive running to the outside of the quarterback because you have Dex inside and he's collapsing the inside of that pocket?
It's tricky. You never want to, open up those, because I also don't want to rush so high to the point where it's too much space for Dex to cover. So it is a tricky thing, but, with him being able to win the way he does, it does give you a little more leeway to, rush a little more aggressive, edge-wise.
How has the team's mindset and practice been this week, trying to rebound off that tough loss last week?
It's been good. It's been great energy. Guys have been coming out to compete and, really, I would say, enhance the details of the game. Like I said, watching back at that film, it was all about details, especially those 3 big runs. So I think they responded, positively to it.
There were some questions from the media about maybe, on 1 or 2 plays where maybe there wasn't maximum effort by everyone on the field at the same time. Is that something as a player, as a veteran, that you think is best solved by the players talking to each other? Is that better solved by the coaches talking to the player? As a leader on this defense, how do you make sure that everyone is engaged, and if you don't see they are necessarily on tape, how do you guys like to deal with that inside the locker room?
Yeah, I think it's best to have the players handle it, just because it's more relatable. I guess you could say, like, I'm able to tell him, like, I'm out here doing X, Y, and Z. I need you to do the same. So, yes, I think it's best to have the players handle it. And, everybody responds differently to criticism and encouragement. So, however that person responds to it, you should act accordingly.
Absolutely. All right, let's talk about the opponent this week. Russell Wilson, you've played him twice before. What are the challenges of him? He's a veteran. He throws a great deep ball. He's mobile. Maybe not as mobile as he used to be, but he can still move around a little bit. So what is it like playing Russell Wilson? What specific challenges does he give to a defender like you and your defense overall?
Russ has seen it all. Russ has been playing in this league for a long time, had great success, obviously. Like you said, he's not as mobile as he used to be, but at the same time, he's seen everything, and he can probably see something before it happens and be a step ahead of the game. So with that being said, going against a veteran quarterback that had this much success, you have to be on your P's and Q's. And as a rusher, I understand that Russ knows how to maneuver in the pocket, and at the same time, he's smart enough to get rid of the ball when he knows it's nowhere to go.
Everyone says when you play the Steelers, you got to ready put your hard hat on. They're a very physical football team. Talk about what it's like going up against a team like that. And are you excited to try to go up against a team that just wants to kind of run the ball downhill and punch you in the face a little bit?
Yeah, it's going to be one of those grimy games. And, as a defensive player, I look forward to that, but I also do want to force them to be one-dimensional and throw that ball because that's where my strengths land, my strengths are, and one of the strengths of our defense. But it's going to be one of those grimy games for sure, and those are exciting as well.
And look, and
it's my first time playing in the Steelers place. So,
what have people told you about playing there?
They told me to get wild, get crazy, especially when they're winning. So I'm looking forward to a crazy atmosphere.
And I think we can just bring those two answers you just said together, right? If you can get ahead of them and get them off schedule, stop their run, because they want to run play action. That's what Arthur Smith wants to do, right? They want to run play action off the run game, have a couple deep shots down the field. If you can take them out of that run-first thing, Russell Wilson will hold the ball. He's done that his whole career. That's probably is the best opportunities for you guys to succeed as a defense, right?
No, definitely, yeah. He does hold the ball because he likes to extend plays. He likes to go for the big play. And like you said, he has a good deep ball, and it takes time, for that to happen. So that's definitely where I want him at. But at the same time, I do embrace the griminess of the game and that aggression. So yeah, I'm looking forward to both sides.
All right, I got the two toughest questions for last. How you liking the city in your time here? Have you had the chance to enjoy it a little bit?
Yeah, I got around a little bit. I had some time to get around on that Thursday night, not the Thursday night, but the Thursday night game. You know what I'm saying? That weekend, yeah. Had some time to get around, go out to eat, try some new spots, and see what the city's about. I like it.
All right, now this is another question. So Bob Pop is our play-by-play guy, and he's trying to perfect your sack call, all right? And so he goes, Brian Burns, take out your webs. And I said to him, well, Spider-Man doesn't really take out his webs. He doesn't have a web in his pocket. He's not taking it out. He's like, well, I don't want to say shooting webs because, for the whole thing. So do you have any suggestions? I said maybe sling your webs. What do you think?
Yes, sling is the proper word. I actually just posted that not too long ago on my celebration. I put web slinger, so he can take that if he would like.
I will pass that on. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure.
It promises to be a month of tricks, treats, and of course, touchdowns. And DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, is the #1 place to bet touchdowns. New to DraftKings? Try betting on something simple like a player to score a touchdown. Go to the DraftKings Sportsbook app and make your pick. Here's a reason for new customers to do a touchdown dance of their own. Bet $5 to get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Score big with DraftKings Sportsbook, the #1 place to bet touchdowns. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code DK1. That's code DK1 for new customers to get $200 in bonus bets when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings, the crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort, Kansas. 21 plus age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/ft-ball.
Great job from Brian Burns there. The Giants Huddle podcast is brought to you by Citizens, the official bank of the Giants. From game day celebrations to your everyday financial needs, Big Blue fans can get the most out of every moment with Citizens. Learn more at citizensbank.com/Giants. Now let's turn our magnifying glass on the Pittsburgh Steelers. And to take a look at the Steelers, we're joined by Tim Benz. I'm just going to call him Mr. Pittsburgh. He covers every sport imaginable down there, covers stuff for Duquesne. He's also the Steelers pre- and post-game host. He has the podcast Breakfast with Benz you can check out as well. Tim, what's going on, man? How are you?
John, it's great to catch up with you again. How you been?
I'm doing great. I also did some play-by-play work with Tim down there covering the NEC. It's always good to talk to you. So let's start here. Injury stuff for the Steelers. What should Giant fans be kind of keeping an eye out for? This is going to air on Friday as the final injury report kind of hits on Saturday heading into Monday's game.
Yeah, they're pretty healthy right now in terms of 50-50 guys. I don't think there's really going to be anybody of consequence all that much. Cordell Patterson, maybe. I don't know how committed they are to trying to get Roman Wilson into the lineup. I think they should be more committed than they have been, but he keeps seeming to have hamstring issues now after having the ankle problem. The one guy you won't see in all likelihood, unless there's some miracle that happens over the weekend, is Zach Frazier at center. And that's an unfortunate loss, particularly this week with the Giants' strength inside with Lawrence at the other side of the line of scrimmage. But They've gotten around their offensive line issues. Ryan McCollum did a better job than expected last week against the Jets. Not the same thing that he's going to face this week for sure. It'd be great to have Frazier healthy, but I think they're going to do the wise thing and hold him back for another week until after the bye when they play Washington following the bye after the Monday Night Football game against the Giants. And I'd throw Nick Herbig into that same realm as well. I think he's another guy who, in a real pinch or a playoff situation, might try to come back this week, but my guess is they'll hold him off for one more week as well.
I want to stay on the offensive line. Broderick Jones is a guy that the Steelers brought along slowly last year as a rookie. They didn't want to put him in there right away. You look at some of the advanced metrics with pressures allowed and stuff. It doesn't look like he's having a great second year. How would you evaluate his performance? Because the Giants, obviously, they lead the NFL in sacks, and they like to try to get their matchups right against some of the weaker offensive tackles in the league.
Yeah, he's regressed for sure. I actually thought he was off to a pretty decent start in his first season. I thought they could have and should have gone to him earlier. And then as the season went along, you saw some real good things in the run game, some development pass blocking. And then when they went out and got Troy Fautano in the draft, it just felt like that started a process that spiraled for Jones a little bit. The thinking was that he would go to his natural position of left tackle. They gave the job again to Dan Moore. They seem to love him, and then they don't seem to trust him at the same time because they keep drafting guys to take his spot. So he is still the left tackle. They decided to go with Fautano despite being somewhat injured at times in the preseason. They gave him the right tackle job, and they were going to bring Jones off the bench. And I think it's messed with his head. I think it's messed with his technique. I don't think he's 100% healthy. And while he's still pretty decent run blocking, he's been a problem pass blocking at the right tackle position.
I love your interior guys, though. Seumalo is a good player. Zach Frazier, I love coming at him. Mason McCormick was one of my sleepers. I think he's a really good player. So I think you guys have a nice, powerful line there, which kind of buoys your running game. And I think Najee Harris is running the ball as well as I've seen him running in a while. 2 straight 100-yard games. And the Steelers really seem to be in a groove offensively where Mike Tomlin and Arthur Smith are running this thing the way they want to.
You don't hear that sentence every day in Pittsburgh, do you? This in a groove offensively. I almost fell over when I heard you say that, but yeah, it's gotten better. I understand why more against the Jets because you get Wilson in there. They're backing guys out of the box. Najee wasn't running into a stacked box all the time. He did pop a big one on the touchdown run against the Raiders that did feel like it got him going. They've been good closing games with the run. You know, in the first half against the Raiders, the run game looked as plodding and vanilla as it had. And then in the second half, it really got going. And they've been great after halftime in general. They have been, I think, the best team in football by a number of metrics when it comes to after halftime. They're adjusting well at the half. Their special teams have been very good this year. Excellent when it comes to kick blocking and helping them out positionally. The punter, Waitman, has been a godsend after they lost their punter, Johnston, replaced last year's guy, Presley Harvin. They really, over the last couple of weeks, have had some good game plans, I think. Exploit what can be exploited in a number of areas against some lesser competition in the Raiders and the Jets. We kill the coaches around here all the time in Pittsburgh, and for a lot of reasons, rightfully so, I think, in the past few seasons. But they've done a nice job coaching around the O-line injuries, handling the quarterback situation. Got to give them credit when it's due, and I think it's definitely been due over the last month or so here.
Yeah, you got to keep in mind, the Giants average around 14 points a game, 10 points the last 2 weeks. Every offense, to me, looks like it's really rolling in the right direction based on what I've seen the last couple of weeks. I don't mean to bury the lead, but let's talk about the quarterback situation. I know there was a lot of consternation in Pittsburgh about that switch from Justin Fields. Team's 4-2. It seems odd changing a quarterback out when you're 4-2. But I think the most points the Steelers have scored since 2021 last week with that game against the Jets. So just give me your take on how that whole thing went down and kind of where they sit with Russell Wilson and Justin Fields.
Well, you're right. There was consternation. I wasn't really a part of that because I never saw the Wilson Fields thing as red state, blue state, as many in Pittsburgh and nationally did. I think a lot of what happened when they made the decision to go to Russ was residue from what happened in the preseason, which was, I think, a lot of people out of Pittsburgh manufactured a quarterback controversy. It was always going to be Russ's job. Everybody in Pittsburgh knew that. And then you go on national blogs and read about the Steelers from the outside perspective, and they made it sound like it was neck and neck. It wasn't even when Russ was hurt. And then he comes back for the last preseason game. Looks like the natural order of things is going to progress, and he's going to be the starter as was planned. Then he gets hurt right before the Falcons game to open the season, and Justin Fields was better than we thought he was going to be. It was better than what he had shown in preseason and training camp. So it made sense to stick with him. And if Russ had not been the option to go to, and it was just Kyle Allen, they would have stuck with Justin Fields and never thought twice about it. I get the theory of going to Russ, though, because the passing game did leave something to be desired. He did have some Steve Blass, Rick Ankiel kind of drives where he lost the strike zone completely and was throwing the ball all over the plate. He didn't know where it was going, so to speak. And, just the passing game wasn't as crisp as it could have been. And they decided to go with Russ. I get it. That was the plan from the offseason. They thought the offense was better than what it was last year, but they didn't see it in its totality as they had planned. So they wanted to get a look at it, and it looked better. So good for them for making the move. They could go to Justin at any time. Right now, though, it looks like Russ still moves well enough to overcome the shortcomings of his offensive line and put himself in a position where he could still see those passing lanes that he needs for a quarterback of his height. He can still get himself to the right spots well enough.
Yeah, last thing on the offense, it seems like he has a perfect partner in George Pickens. Russell Wilson was always great at throwing those deep balls, and that's where George Pickens seems to thrive. I know at times he might be a little immature. That's the word I'll choose. You could use a different one if you like. But how is that connection going between Russ and Pickens and kind of the rest of that wide receiver core coming along?
Immature is one of the many words that works. So let's just stick with that. You're right. Yes, that's a good way to describe it. But having Russ does unlock Pickens more, I think, because he throws a more catchable ball at a higher point that uses George's catch radius the way it should be used. Fields, for as surprisingly accurate as he was on the deep balls, it could have been better still, and he does throw a line drive. Like, there's not a lot of air and touch underneath it, and you're not getting the most that you could out of Pickens in that regard. Like, it's funny. I do a couple of shows here a week with Matt Williamson, who used to be a pro and college scout, and has been with us for quite some time. You can find him online. He's a really good scouting eye for things, and did that job professionally with the Browns and at the University of Pittsburgh as well. And he said it's funny to say this, but the one thing that really stood out to him, if there was a concern about Russ, is his arm strength as good as it used to be. And everybody's talking about the deep ball, how good the deep ball was. Well, he put the ball in good spots deep, but it's not like George Pickens was running underneath them in stride. Like, he was coming back. He made two good combat catches and put Sauce Gardner in a tough spot for a pass interference penalty as well. In fact, that probably was Russ's best deep ball, was the one that drew the pass interference penalty. So, you have a smaller guy or a less freakish athlete than Pickens, then maybe we're not talking about how great Russ's deep ball still is.
Fair enough. All right, let's go to the defensive side of the ball. Tomlin and Terrell Austin really seems to have things cooking on that end here. As usual, top 5 run defense. They stop the run extremely well. And it really all starts with your front, right? They don't have to blitz a lot because of Hayward, because of Highsmith, because of Watt. Very physical up front. And that still seems to be the basis of what Steelers football is on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, it's a bit of a DNA change. I mean, we were Blitzburg, like that started here. The 3-4 zone blitz started here. I shouldn't say started, but was perfected here in the 90s. So people are asking, and I think rightfully so, should they blitz more? Because it felt like they wanted to do that this year. Like, they kept Landon Roberts, who's a good blitzer. They went out and got Patrick Queen, who, when paired with Roquan Smith, was an excellent blitzer last year. Peyton Wilson is certainly capable of that, the 3rd-round pick, who's getting a ton of time on the field. But they're not blitzing, and they're just going with 4. And I do think the Steelers' pass rush is predictable. Luckily, you can predict that T.J. Watt's going to be pretty good most weeks.
And Cameron Hayward.
Yeah, and Hayward, right? Yeah, like, you can predict for the most part what you can get from their front, but I would like to see the pass rush varied more. And I don't think it's a crime against humanity to have TJ Watt rush from a different place from time to time than just standing over the right tackle. They seem to think so. Maybe he seems to think so. I don't know, but they beat the Jets with 1 sack last week. I think TJ has a sack and a half over his last 4 games. Their pressure is constantly present, like they hit Rodgers 8 times, and I don't think he liked that very much. So they'll get around the quarterback, they'll get near the quarterback, but they're not bringing the quarterback down as much as you would think the Pittsburgh Steelers do based on their reputation.
Is Keanu Benton an emerging star here that maybe the rest of the league hasn't figured out yet?
We keep saying that. We were starting to say that before he even played his first preseason game. He's good. He's been a good pick, and he's a good defensive lineman in the National Football League. Good pick. This anointing like he's ready to be the next Cam on a consistent play-to-play, down-to-down basis, I don't see it yet, but he's good. And there's upside, and I think he could be very good, but I don't think he's where Javon Hargrave was by the time Javon Hargrave left the Steelers, which is sort of he's a bigger Javon Hargrave in terms of just stature. He doesn't have the backside that Hargrave had, the anchor that Hargrave had. He's not where Hargrave was when Hargrave left the Steelers. Let's put it that way. That's a level that I think at least Benton can attain.
A couple other good young cornerbacks on your roster. Joey Porter, Beanie Bishop's kind of slid into the nickel for you. How big of a role do those guys play in your pass game? How do they use them?
Huge. If you think about it, Porter almost never comes off the field. Dante Jackson has been great coming over from Carolina. That was the trade that caused all the dominoes to fall, which is why anytime a trade candidate comes up at wide receiver, the Steelers at the top of the list, because they don't have another guy besides Pickens because they traded Deontay Johnson for Dante Jackson. And it was a little bit of a dubious move at the time because there was a lot of talk that the Panthers were just going to cut Dante Jackson anyway. Why did you have to give up Deontay Johnson unless they felt like he was going to be poisonous in the locker room and couldn't get along with Pickens or whoever the quarterback du jour was going to be? So it might have been kind of an addition by subtraction thing to a degree there, but I don't know. I always thought Deontay Johnson was a little bit better than that. And I have been pleasantly surprised at how good Dante Jackson has been. He's got a couple picks. He does still look fast. He is such an upgrade over whatever they were trying on a week-to-week basis at the corner opposite Porter. Porter's really steady. He can follow. He doesn't have to follow the best receiver. He's done both this year. They didn't get around to addressing the slot corner position. I think they've always liked Beanie Bishop. They talked to him. They interviewed him from West Virginia. I think they knew he was going to be a late second day guy. And when he was still there and still falling, they were always going to try to make him a preferred free agent signing. So they went out and got him there. He's not quite Mike Hilton. He's not like the cause chaos at the line of scrimmage guy. They actually have Deshaun Elliott doing some of that when it's more in pure run situations. But he's been good. He had a really rough game against, I think it was the Cowboys. Porter kind of struggled against the Colts. Beanie kind of struggled against the Cowboys. Aside from that, those two have been quite good.
And then finally, is this the best safety combination in the league, do you think? I mean, Mink is unbelievable. You guys have 9 interceptions. You forced a ton of turnovers. I think, second in the NFL in turnover ratio right now. Is Minka as good as advertised?
Yeah, but the turnovers aren't coming from Minka. That's the thing. That's the surprising part of it. He hasn't gotten a lot of them, but Deshaun Elliott has been much better than I thought. I thought Elliott was just going to be maybe a more athletic version, bigger version of KZ. He's better than that. He's been good. He has really been noticeably good, especially in the middle third of the defense. And Minka is doing a real good job taking away the back third of the defense, like the center field area, to let other people do their thing. But yeah, they are causing chaos. The turnovers are coming from different places, and they've carried that over to the kick block department too. Those kind of feel like turnovers, and they're blocking kicks, and they're really, really good on special teams this year. So there's a lot going right for the Steelers. The offense is caught up, and I think that's the big thing that you've seen the last 2 weeks, which is why it's feeling pretty good here, man. If you told me that they had the opportunity to go to 6-2, if they beat the Giants on Monday Night Football and they go to 6-2, that is exactly where they should be, could have been, and need to be for this slog of a back half of the schedule they got. They've got all their division games. They've got the Commanders. They got the Chiefs on Christmas Day, and they've got the Philadelphia Eagles. So this is a really tough last 9 games that they got to go through to get to the playoffs.
And the Steelers, unfortunately, didn't have a chance to play the Browns with Deshaun Watson. So it's probably going to be tougher, whomever is a quarterback.
Ironically, yes. Yeah, whoever they put in now as the new quarterback might make it harder on them.
Yeah, and the Bengals always play better second half of the year, too. So that's certainly going to be tough. Tim, have a great broadcast Monday night, man. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, John. Good to talk to you again.
From hobby farmers to weekend gardeners and everyone in between, Tractor Supply trusts 5G solutions from T-Mobile for Business to make shopping more personal. Together, we're connecting over 2,200 stores with 5G business internet and powering AI so team members can match shoppers with products faster.
You're all set.
This is enriching customer experience. This is Tractor Supply with T-Mobile for Business. Take your business further at T-Mobile.com/now.
Great job by Tim Benz. The Giants Huddle podcast is brought to you by Citizens, the official bank of the New York Giants. Citizens will donate $750 to the Giants Foundation for each scoring drive during the 2024 season. Learn more at citizensbank.com/Giants. Now we go to the head coach of the NYG with the voice of the NYG, Bob Papa with Brian Daboll.
And as always, we're joined by the head coach of the New York Giants, Brian Daboll, where tonight the Giants take on the Pittsburgh Steelers. And Coach, Pittsburgh played a primetime game on Sunday night, and it's a pretty rough atmosphere when you get down to that confluence. They love that football team. What are some of the challenges in dealing with playing them, especially in their building?
Yeah, it's a great football environment. Fans are loud. They have the terrible towels out. They have their culture there in terms of their songs they play, when they play them, how they hype the crowd, and all that is, a challenging part of it. But the most challenging part of the game is playing the Pittsburgh Steelers. They're a tough physical football team in all three phases, as they have been for a long time. And, you can see last week how the game kind of unfolded against the Jets, what they hang their hat on, and made some really good plays at critical times. They're a very tough defense. They've been that way for a long time. And, offensively, they put some points on the board, made some big plays to Pickens, and were able to run the ball. And, it's a tough environment and more importantly, a tough team.
Yeah, I want to ask you about Najee Harris because obviously they put Russell Wilson in. They were able to hit some shots downfield, but he had over 100 yards rushing. He's a player I know you're familiar with. What makes him such a good back in this league?
Well, he's big, he's strong, and he's physical, and he runs with purpose. He gets his pads down. He'll run over guys, and he'll jump over guys at times. He's a hard guy to bring down, and I'd say his play style, his demeanor that he plays with, being able to run through players, search contact, contact balance. He's a Pittsburgh Steelers running back.
Coach, did you get a sense of some edginess out of your team this week in the sense that, look, the run defense wasn't what it had been last week against Philadelphia? I know you guys pride yourself on being able to close that run down, and last week there was some big explosives against you. Did the guys take that kind of personally a little bit?
Yeah, that's always a key for us, and I'd say their mindset, their practice habits are consistent. We got to make sure we're doing a good job tackling in an open field and setting edges and building walls. And, it's something that we practice every week. That's important to us. We had good days of practice, had a big padded practice like we do every week to try to get ready for this football game.
On the other side of the ball, Coach, obviously you weren't able to get your run game going the way you would have liked. You had to play your first game without Andrew Thomas, and I don't care what anybody says, when you lose a player of that quality, there is an adjustment period. Do you think things have settled down a little bit with your team now as far as understanding roles and here's what we have to do in order to function more efficiently as a group up front?
Yeah, I think look, we understand that. We understood it. It's the next man up mentality, and you always do things, whether it's schematically, formationally, to help that out, and we got to do a good job with that. They have some rush on the quarterback, but we're all tied in together with it, whether it's the routes, the timing of the play, the timing of the drop. Were there certain negative plays that were on the offensive line? Absolutely, but it was a collective deal, and we're working at it. We're going to do the things we think are necessary to help that out. and hope for better results.
Obviously, you got to deal with not one but two outstanding defensive guys on their front, and I don't even want to just single out those two guys, but when Watt and Hayward are two guys that can wreck a game individually, let alone combined. How do you deal with those two guys?
It's hard. It's been hard for a long time when teams play them. That's why, leading into the fourth quarter of games this year, they've given up an average of 9 points, their defense. And obviously it starts with those two guys up front. But, with Queen, with Roberts, who is a tough inside linebacker, with Minka back there in the back end, and then you add the other side of it, Highsmith, who, he plays alongside Watt. But you just watch Highsmith; he's a major problem in and of itself. So you can't help everybody when you're passing the ball or running the ball. There's certain times you can double team or help out a particular position, but you can't double team everybody against this team, and that's what makes it challenging. There's not I wouldn't say there's a high volume of pressure. They do a great job of coordinating their front with their back end. And when you have, I would say, 4 or 5 guys that play like they do up front, just to get any play going that's where it starts. That's the start of the game, is the battle of the trenches. So that's why they've been good for a long time. But those two players that you mentioned, Bob, are two of the better players in our league, and they have been for a while.
Yeah, and Patrick Queen seems to be a nice fit too, coming over from the Baltimore Ravens, kind of fitting into just what they want to do and just adding another athletic body who brings the heat.
Yeah. Again, you look at Queen, you look at Roberts, Wilson comes in at times, or a rookie that's an athletic, fast linebacker. And then again, Watt on the outside, Highsmith on the outside. Herbig's been injured, but when he comes, he's an athletic guy that, it seems like they have a very good formula for how they build their defense. It's, it's not exactly the same, but again, I've, been in that stadium and played this team a lot. It seems like it's never stopped relative to the defense and the style and the type of player that they have.
Just in wrapping it up here, Coach, I want to circle back to Dexter Lawrence and kind of what he's been able to do so far this year. And that's not taken away from, Brian Burns has been fantastic and, being disruptive. And a lot of guys have played well for you. But what Dexter's done this year is pretty amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, he's like I said before, he's one of the better players in our league. He's a great person. He's a great teammate. He's a great leader. There's only so many Dexter Lawrences in this league, and I'm happy he's on our team. Fortunate, he's doing everything he can do each week, as are all our guys. But he's doing everything he can do each week to go out there and be the best version of himself for our team, and we need him to be, because he's one hell of a player.
Coach, best of luck, and we'll do it again next week.
Thanks, Pop.
That's the head coach of the New York Giants, Brian Daboll.
Thanks for being with us on this episode of the Giants Huddle podcast, brought to you by Citizens, the official bank of the Giants. I am John Schmeelk. Thank you to Tim Benz, Brian Daboll, Bob Papa, and Brian Burns for joining us on this episode. Guys, enjoy your weekend. You get Saturday and Sunday without Giants football, and then Monday night, national stage, Giants and Steelers should be a lot of fun. Can't wait. We'll talk then.
I'm Peter Schrager, host of Good Morning Football on the NFL Network and the Season with Peter Schrager podcast. Whether you're ordering wings for the game, or you're whipping up a 7-layer dip, or you're ordering a pizza, there's something about football that makes you want to eat. And this football season, Uber Eats has the best deals on game day food, no matter what you're craving. From 2-for-1 pizzas to buy one, get one wings to whatever it is you want, Uber Eats will be dropping new deals each week all season long. Uber Eats is the official on-demand delivery partner of the NFL. Order now for game day. Terms and conditions apply, and see the app for details.
You go into your shower feeling, but as soon as you reach for the Irish Spring, your day immediately gets better. That crisp, fresh, unmistakable Irish Spring scent zings your brain and awakens your senses. So when you finally emerge from the shower, 37 minutes later, because you pay the water bill so you can stay in there as long as you want, you're ready to take on the day and smell great doing it. Irish Spring Body Wash and Bar Soap. Fresh, green, Irish. Shop now at Walmart.